Losers make excuses and losers talk about the things that they're never going to actually follow through with. We like to say things like this: nothing can help me. No one can help me. I tried every diet. I've gone to every doctor. You want to start to work on being really careful with your language, because what you're doing is you're building kind of a loser from the inside out. These excuses don't do us any good, and we need to work towards finding a road that is going to lead us to solutions. What in the will happen if I go all in on this? There's tons of things that get in the way of it, but the last thing that you need to get in the way of it is you. I'm convinced that you don't need a specific diet plan. You don't need any magic. What you need to do is to stop making excuses and stop having this unconscious victim mentality. I'm going to teach you today about victim consciousness, how you can be conscious of being a loser, how you can be consciousness of being a baby, how you can be conscious of being a complainer. I think that these things are at the root of our unhealthiness and at the root of our unhappiness. In my opinion, cowards talk about what they will never do. The road to nowhere is paved by excuses. There's a lot of reasons why I say that quote. I learned that quote from a good friend of mine, Mike Ryan, years ago. But if you think about most of the people that you know and most of the people you interact with, when they talk about these big dreams and these big things that they want to do and they don't back them up, what starts to happen? You know, if you tell your significant other all these plans that you have, all these things that you want to do, and they never come to fruition, they're going to start to lose trust in you. They're going to start to lose their kind of faith in you, on you being able to follow through with these things. Same thing with day-to-day life. You tell someone you're going to meet someone at a certain time and you're always late, or you tell someone you're going to meet someone somewhere and you forget, and so on and so forth. And we end up in these categories without even kind of realizing it. And one of the things I think that leads us down that road where we're using all these excuses, because most people are well-intended, great people a lot of times. Not everyone's just a dick for no reason, right? What leads us down this path of excuses, in my opinion, is our rationalization that we can do. It's really easy to rationalize a little white lie here and there. It's really easy to rationalize, oh yeah, I was gonna fast today, but I'll just do it tomorrow because today's super stressful. It's really easy to keep doing that and to do it over and over and over again in your day-to-day. It can be a big time mistake, because you can get yourself rolling into this over and over and over again, all the way to the point where you're whining about this, you're whining about that. If you think about, so let's just take something like complaining as an example. If you're complaining that you're having adherence to your diet, if you're complaining about the weather, you're complaining about, think about this for a moment and stay with me. Think about some of the people that you've been talking to about exercise for the last several months. You've been talking to them from January forward, right? Been talking to them for the whole year. And at that time, January, February, the excuse was, it is really cold where I live. No, you don't understand. Where I live, it gets really cold. Oh, no, where I live, the weather's horrible. You can't even get outside. There's too much snow, too much this, too much that. I can't do your 10-minute walks. I can't do them. I can't get any sunlight. I can't do any of that. And it's just so freezing out. I can't do cold plunges. And you start to rationalize some of these things. And sometimes your excuses are legitimate. If there's 3 feet of snow outside, it's going to be harder for you to drive to the gym that day. I agree. However, these excuses don't do us any good, and we need to work towards finding a road and finding a path that is going to lead us to solutions. We need to figure out how to be solution-oriented, because solutions are going to be the things that empower us. Solutions are going to be things that are going to make us stronger. Solutions are going to be the things that allow us to get our footing to traverse the area that we're trying to traverse, because a lot of times we're trying to go over new ground sometimes. And so sometimes these new habits that we're trying to form can be extremely difficult. The difficulty of them, however, isn't necessarily that they require some big skill set, or at least it shouldn't be. For example, something like walking, there's not a major skill set required for walking. Fortunately, many people have the ability to go outside for a walk. And in your area, if there's a lot of fires and there's smoke, it's 112 degrees out and so on, again, a lot of times these are still just excuses, because sometimes you can just drive 30 minutes to a different area where the weather is a little different or a little bit better, or you can just simply wake up earlier in the day and have your walk earlier in the day. Even out here in California, when we've had fire season, which is pretty wild, even when we've had that and it's been like smoky out and stuff like that, you could still get out at certain times of the day and it's still relatively safe for you to go on a walk or to go on a run. Later on in the evening, it's going to cool down. So we don't always have to just pile up excuses. We want to start to pile up in the other direction. And we want to start to really focus in and hone in on what are some solutions. Unfortunately, sometimes we may have a medical issue. You may go to the doctor, you may get some blood work done, and it comes back that even though you are, running and walking and lifting, and you have some really pretty good health practices, your diet seems to be pretty intact. You're like, man, I don't know, I'm in pretty good shape. But you get some bad news that maybe your blood work is slightly off or some of these things. It's real easy to start to, let's say you have sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is very common, and it's common not even necessarily in people being super heavy, which it's another topic for another day on how controllable it is or isn't to be obese. That's a really tough topic to tackle sometimes. I know most people are just like, oh, people are big, fat, and lazy, and that's the way they got that way and so forth. But another topic probably for another day. But something like sleep apnea, you usually think like someone who's over 300 pounds, that's who gets sleep apnea. But I have many friends that are 170 pounds, 180 pounds, 190 pounds, without PEDs and they don't really have like crazy amounts of muscle. They are in great shape. They still have sleep apnea. Now, we can kick and scream and we can get super upset about that. And we can get down about that and say, why do I have this life-threatening issue? Because sleep apnea is that important. It can be, in some cases, can be life-threatening. And each and every day that you're not breathing properly in your sleep, it's having negative impacts on your cognition, negative impacts on your health, negative impacts on how your body deals with carbohydrates and so on. Like the list of things that happen when you have sleep apnea are horrible. Your blood pressure goes up. The thickness of your blood increases. So there's all these different things. And so it's real easy to be super frustrated by that and to say, kind of end up with this why me mentality. Man, I'm doing everything right. Nothing's really working for me. In some other examples, when you think about some people that are trying to lose some weight, they're like, man, I just want to tone up. I just want to be a little bit more fit. I just want to lose weight, and the scale's not moving. I'm on a pretty good diet. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. We like to say things like this. We like to say, nothing can help me. No one can help me. I tried every diet. I've gone to every doctor. And he can't do anything about my knee. I've gone to every surgeon and they can't fix my shoulder. When we start to use terminology like this, we need to be a little bit cautious, because what you're doing is you're building, in my opinion, you're building kind of a loser from the inside out. Losers make excuses, and losers talk about the things that they're never going to actually follow through with. And I would say that you're a coward too. I would throw that in there. I know it sounds like maybe crass or a little over the top to say that, but I'm talking directly to myself too. You know how many things I haven't followed through with in my life? Thousands upon thousands of things. We're all in this category. This is what it's like to be human. We have a yin and a yang to us. We got some really cool parts and really nice parts, and we got some really bad parts, and we have some other stuff probably down the middle that's just kind of like, meh, right? But this is what it's like to be human, and we have this dichotomy in us where we're constantly going back and forth on these ideas and concepts. But then sometimes you're scrolling through Instagram or something like that, and you hear that message from a David Goggins, or you hear that message from your favorite motivational speaker. And they'll teach you and they'll talk to you about like living the code, and they're all fired up and they're all pumped up. And sometimes you watch that and you go, God damn, they're right. And then 4 hours later, you're eating some Ben & Jerry's and enjoying your favorite show, and you slipped up again. It's really easy to happen. It's really common to have happen.
I want to have a serious conversation with you about your balls, and I'm being serious here. On this podcast, we talked about a lot of things to help men improve the health of their penis, because it's important, and your balls have very thin skin. This is true. You can touch them right now, and you know it's pretty thin. Women do a lot of things to take care of their vaginal health, and men, we don't really think about the things that we put right directly on our balls, like our boxers. A lot of popular brands out there have chemicals that are literally touching your balls. Think about this. When you're in the gym sweating, when you're at work sitting, when you're doing all these things could be permeating into your scrotum. Things like BPA, phthalates, pesticides, insecticides, toxic dyes, toxic fertilizers, formaldehyde, all of which could lead to and could exacerbate lower testosterone, erectile dysfunction, and potential infertility. That's why I've partnered with NADS. And NADS is made with 100% organic cotton and no toxic dyes. So instead of putting just anything on your manhood, it's a good idea to get your hands on some NADS. And Andrew, how can they get it?
Yes, that's over at nadsunder.com. That's NADS under.com. And at checkout, enter promo code POWERPROJECT to save 15% off your entire order. Again, that's at nadsunder.com. Links in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
But you want to start to work on being more solution-oriented and being really careful with your language. There's study after study, there's research after research, and then there's tons of empirical evidence of a big part of what you become has a lot to do with who you hang out with, what is said about you, what you say about yourself, and what you ultimately believe about yourself. For the most part, if you're doing good, you're going to hear good feedback, right? Obviously, there's negative with that too. When you become celebrity status or you start to have hundreds of thousands of views or you're known, by a lot of people, there's going to be some people that will shoot you down. So, of course, that's a factor in there as well. But if you're doing good, most of the time you're getting a lot of good back. I'm a big believer in karma, and I think it's a huge factor in our day-to-day. I think it's a huge factor in our health. Just being kind, being nice to one another. Let me get back to this idea of building a loser from the inside out and ending up in this category of someone that's not really following through. Again, I believe it has so much to do with stacking up too many things in the direction of excuses and rationalizing it. I can get this done tomorrow. Oh, I can do this later. But instead, what you should really be thinking about is, I just wonder what in the fuck will happen and who will I become if I go all in on this? What if I just push this all the way? What if I literally push this all the way? And look, most likely you're still not going to push it all the way because there's so many of these other factors that slow us down in life. There's so many other things that we have in life. You have your regular 9 to 5, you have a lot of other things that may get in the way of your hopes and dreams of being a musician, your hopes and dreams of being an artist, your hopes and dreams of being a bodybuilder, or just your hopes and dreams of just being just crazy fit and being excited about that. There's tons of things that get in the way of it, but the last thing that you need to get in the way of it is you. Let's start to remove that variable. And a lot of times when you start to get into this victim mentality, it reminds me of there's something called sparring partner syndrome. And if you remember in Rocky, when Rocky is given the opportunity, when the manager invites Rocky into his office and presents Rocky with this idea that he's going to fight Apollo Creed, before the manager can ever even say anything, Rocky says, "Hey, just so you know, I would be a tremendous sparring partner for Mr. Creed. I won't take any cheap shots or anything. I swear but I'll give him a good workout every time." And the guy says, no, you don't understand. I'm not asking you to be a sparring partner. I'm asking you to fight the heavyweight champion of the world. And then it shows Rocky's eyes. And the doubt that's in his eyes is crazy. I don't even remember if he said anything or not right there. I think the camera just sat on his eyes and he kind of just, from what I remember, from the way I'm remembering, he kind of looked to the side like, holy shit. Imagine if that was your opportunity and someone threw that big of an opportunity your way, you would probably feel tremendously unprepared for it too, because you would be in the same position as Rocky. He was always wishy-washy. That's why he sucked. That's why he was like a journeyman boxer. The potential was always inside of him. The potential was always there. He had a lot of the tools within him, but he wasn't getting the best out of himself because he didn't challenge himself enough. So when you hear these people talking this crazy talk about like living this code and checking off these boxes and putting up points on the scoreboard, you're like, I don't see a scoreboard. I don't know what checked boxes they're talking about. I don't know. You start to kind of, you think to yourself like, is this person living in an imaginary world that I don't know anything about? Maybe they partially are. And maybe what some people are doing is maybe they are gamifying their day-to-day so that they can figure out a way to be on the other side of things. One of my favorite songs of all time is We Are the Champions. The singer from Queen constantly, is repeating, Freddie Mercury is constantly repeating, We Are the Champions, and everyone sings along with the song. But what the song also says is it says, no time for losers. There's no time for losers, and there's no time for you to think of thoughts that are gonna promote losing. So the next time that you have an injury, and the next time something pops up, rather than being a victim, think about being a victor. The way that you can lead yourself to victory, the way that you can start to win, is to start to add up more positive things than you are doing negative. So I know people are like a little bit weird about positive affirmations and stuff, and to be honest, I am too. I don't know how well positive affirmations serve you. I don't know if you said, I'm a millionaire, and you just said it and declared it every day. And then ultimately, you're hoping that one day that actually happens for you. I don't know how much I believe that. I do believe a little bit in this stuff of like, putting stuff out in the universe and it bounces back to you. And I believe in a little bit of that. But I'll tell you what I believe in very strongly. That is, if you're on the other side of that and you're negative, you ain't going nowhere. If you're constantly super negative and dragging yourself down all the time, I mean, you could be doing that in one area and you could be hyper-focused in another, right? So I'm not saying that it automatically means doom and gloom and that you'll never succeed in anything. What I am saying is that I know for sure that the negativity is not going to be a thing that's going to assist you. Now, looking at the negativity for a second, staring yourself in the mirror and saying, look, man, I cannot believe this is the way you're acting. I cannot believe this is the behavior that you have. You have to make some changes. You're over 300 pounds. When I was 330 pounds and I was powerlifting, that was the goal. I was all in on that. I got myself as big as I possibly could. Arms were over 20 inches. Benching 500 pounds raw and cold, just walking in off the street was easy. It was easy to pick up 6 plates on a deadlift. When I squatted over 1,000 pounds in a meet, my warm-up went a little something like this. I started with 500, I went to 700, and then I went right to 9, whatever it was, on the platform, and then squatted 1,000 pounds. The mindset was locked in. I was warmed up. I played this over and over again. I played this out exactly how it was gonna go. And when I squatted 1,000 pounds and I got to the bottom of that squat, holy shit, I felt like, oh, this is gonna be easy. And it wasn't quite as easy as I thought it was gonna be, but as I coasted to the top, you'll see in a video where I kind of almost like stick out my tongue and have like this big smile, which all that was a lot harder to do when you have that much weight on your back and you're turning purple and everything. But I was able to make a lot of my hopes and dreams come true simply by not honing in on the negative. People would say, oh, your squat form sucks. You tend to hunch over. You tend to round over a lot. And I just thought solution orientation. I'm like, let me find solutions to this. And my solution to that bad form in the squat was the good morning. And I utilized the good morning to my advantage to help build up my lower back. But my point in bringing some of this up is I am grateful that my form was a little bit different and that my form was a little bit weird on the squat, because that allowed for me to be able to reach heights that in the beginning I might not have otherwise thought was possible. Some of the curses that you think that you're born with could be a gift. A lot of the challenges and curveballs that are thrown at you in life are just the right pitch for you, just at the right time. Even though you may have missed the ball a couple times, even though you may have struck out a couple times. Just around the corner, if you learn the pitches and you learn what's coming and you learn the signals and you learn the tip-offs of what ball is coming to you next from the pitcher, you're gonna be able to knock that motherfucker out of the park. every single time. And that's why I talk a lot about serving up yourself underhand pitches in life. Do the things that are easier. Do the things that are more manageable. Don't make yourself feel like a victim. Don't get yourself into this category where you're making excuses for yourself. Why are you making excuses for yourself? Let's just back all that up a ton. I almost guarantee if we were talking about your nutrition, or we were talking about your training, or we were talking about your running, or your jiu-jitsu, you're doing way too much of it, way too hard. Your expectations of yourself are way off the charts, and they don't need to be. Keep those expectations out of it, really. Keep the feelings aside. Go to practice when you feel good. Go to practice when you feel motivated. You don't want to train today? That's fine. Stop saying that you're going to work out 4 days a week. Then start to see how motivated you get with lifting. You're going to probably be more motivated. What happens when you tell yourself you're a 4 workout day a week person, or 3 workouts every single week kind of person, and you only do 1 or you only do 2? You feel like a failure. Good job, class. Page 43, everybody. Why not just lower the bar a little bit? Just calm down. There's no rush. There's no hurry. People aren't going to care that you're shredded in August and then never in shape ever again. Right? But what happens when you get to be 7,487 years old, like myself? I shouldn't even talk negative, even if it's kidding around. But what if you're an older gentleman like myself, or a more mature person like myself, and you're 48 years old and you've been in great shape for the last 5-6 years, and now you're getting even leaner and leaner? Well, now this is where you start to separate yourself out from people. And for me, it's not about the compliments and those things. Those things are all amazing. Those things are all great. It's on the inside. I know probably many of you never experienced this, or I should say I know many of you have experienced this, but for some, maybe you haven't. Have you ever had a test in school that you've been well prepared for, and you're almost like glowing and exploding like out of your seat because you're so pumped that you think you have a lot of the right answers, right? That is a tremendous feeling to have. Why not try to feel that way all the time? Why not try to have all the answers all the time? Well, how do you do it? Again, you lower down those expectations. Now, instead of me saying, hey, I work out 4 days a week and flashing that to everybody and trying to post the workouts that I have up on Instagram all the time, if you're only making 2, just say, I'm going to work out twice a week for the next 2 months or so and see how that goes. Then what happens when you sneak in a 3rd workout? Then you go and tell everybody, hey, I did an extra workout today because I'm a badass. So if you change some of that conversation that you're having with yourself, it changes everything. And where you see this happen probably more so than any place else in the world is in your diet. Your diet is the best place, male, female, for you to challenge yourself. In today's world, we have to admit we live in Nerf world. Things are easy, things are soft, things are squishy, things are comfortable as fuck, right? We don't have to make everything uncomfortable, but let's fat bar some of these things. You know those fat grippers that you can put on the bar, and the rubber thing, the fat grip? Let's do that with some stuff. Let's take a regular concept and let's just make something a little bit harder. That's what I love about fasting, and those are the videos that you guys love, the more recent ones, and we're going to do a lot more, and we'll talk a ton more about fasting. But fasting is extraordinary. Fasting is amazing. And as Kyle Newell says, he recommends that you fast in 12-hour increments. And I really like that a lot because just yesterday, I was working on completing a 48-hour fast, and my wife pulled a fast one on me. She made me one of my favorite meals, which is 93% lean ground beef from Piedmontese with our Italian seasoning from Within You brand that has liver, kidney, heart, spleen, pancreas in it. And then she threw a little cheese in there and some marinara, and it's just amazing. It's basically like a deconstructed meatball type of thing. So I broke my fast, right? I didn't feel bad about it. I felt great about it. So sometimes when we're making these audible decisions to do something slightly different, to go and enjoy some ice cream or to go and do these things, we oftentimes will feel bad about it. But why will we feel bad about it? We probably feel bad about it because we haven't been on point enough when we're supposed to be. So challenge yourself when appropriate, challenge yourself, make things a little bit more difficult. And the best place to harden up and the best place to make yourself stronger, the easiest place to make yourself stronger is with your diet. There's even information showing that diet is far superior than exercise in terms of getting in shape, which is like kind of mind-boggling because you figure that exercise would have a huge impact. But nowadays, we learned and know that exercise obviously has a tremendous impact when we talk about over time and we talk about building muscle mass. We know it has tremendous benefit, especially a body in motion with muscle is going to burn a lot more calories and things like that. So we know that exercise has a lot of merit. But a lot of people could be really lean and a lot of people could look absolutely incredible, mainly by just nailing down their diet. Literally just nailing down the diet. And again, I think that's a really strong, really great area where you can start to eliminate and start to chip off and start to carve out some of these excuses that you were making. Remember, earlier I said the road to nowhere is paved by excuses. So the road to somewhere is going to be paved by you taking the road less traveled, which isn't going to be easy. The road less traveled is probably not even going to be paved. You're going to have to pave it and machete it and get through it yourself and figure out techniques and things that you can do in order to get through and past and around that. Hopefully you guys learned something awesome today in the comments below. Let me know some other things you'd like me to talk about. Let me know what you thought of today's subject matter. But I think that this is at the boiling point where people kind of have this victim mentality. This is a spot where I believe a lot of anxiety and a lot of depression are happening for people because they're not following through with their hopes, their dreams, the things that they want to do. I'm a big believer in embracing your fears and following through with your dreams. To me, it starts with embracing the things that you're scared of. What are you afraid of? What are you scared of? Why aren't you stepping all in? Why aren't you going all in on this? Why do you continually tell yourself that you're going to, and that you're going to do it in August, and that you're going to do it in December, and that you're going to do it in the new year? Why are you always pushing it off? Like, let's do it now. Maybe even in watching this video, you think, you know what? Mark told me, to try a 48-hour fast, and F it, I'm just gonna go for it. Something like that. Like, just do something that is going to challenge you. Do something that's difficult, and over time, you will start to carve away those excuses. And what I want you to pay attention to is what happens to you over and over again when you make the right decision and you live by the code. What happens on the inside? What can you actually make of yourself? I bet you can make something of yourself that is a way better version of yourself currently. And we could say that to anybody. Anybody that you put up on a pedestal, The Rock or whomever, we can ask that person, hey, could you get better? Could you be better? Could you challenge yourself more? And they would say, fuck yeah, I can. It's because we all know on the inside that we can be better. Let's put the victim mentality to rest, have some victim consciousness, and start to think about some of those negative thoughts that you utilize on a day-to-day, and see if you can start to flatten those out a little bit. Slow down a little bit. All this stuff takes a lot of time. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, which I know you did because you got this far, then click this one right here because you'll enjoy this one just as much. And if you're choosing to still listen to me currently, as I'm telling you to go over here and watch this video, Well, hey, that just means you like the sound of my voice. And well, I'll just keep seducing you right here.